When you're a child, to stop you from following the crowd, you're assaulted with the line, "If everyone jumped off a bridge, would you?" But when you're an adult and to be different is suddenly a crime, people seem to be saying, "Hey, everyone else is jumping off a bridge. Why aren't you?" Good, eh? Think about that. It's actually an extract from a book that I came across because I was down a rabbit hole. Not literally, but you know what I mean. And it's a book by Steve Toltz called A Fraction of the Whole. Everything I reference will be in the notes around this. But this episode is about that tension between wanting to stand out, be different, and wanting to fit in, conform. Because there's no point in denying it. That is totally human. We can go around as much as we like saying, "Oh yeah, well, I'm different and I'm proud of it. I'm just being me." But we have an urge to fit in. It's human. So where's the tipping point? Let's have a look, shall we? I'm Trisha Lewis, the host of Self-Belief Unsquashed, and I just like to explore all the human stuff, the tensions, the fears, illusions, and baggage that hold us back, the stuff that gets us self-squashing and not showing up, all of that. And so let's get on with unsquashing our self-belief by spotting some symptoms, some drivers, and then exploring some possible solutions for you to experiment with. That's what these short podcasts are all about. So we're going to look at the tension between wanting to stand out and wanting to fit in. Symptoms. Okay, feeling you need to stand out. What are the symptoms of that? Let's start with something nice and superficial, but pretty big, and that is our appearance. For instance, would I go and dye my hair purple? Because that would make me stand out. If I wanted to, yes, I would. But if I was doing it because I thought it would make me stand out, oh, that's what quirky people do. I want to be one of those kind of arty, quirky people. So I'm going to dye my hair purple. That might not be quite the right approach. And that, of course, you can apply that to your clothing. You know, I'm the type of person that wears sporty clothing. You know, I'm one of the Spice Girls. I dress like this, that, or the other. Well, again, if that's your thing and you feel 100% at ease and it's just how you feel most comfortable, then great. But if you're doing it because you want to be seen as this type of person, and that's the uniform of that, dodgy. Opinions. What about standing out? Symptoms when it comes to things like opinions. You find yourself deliberately taking a controversial viewpoint. You stick to, by the way, there's nothing wrong with taking a controversial viewpoint. It is the deliberate and rather, if you like, pretentious approach, possibly, in order to stand out. Do you really believe it? Is it something that fascinates you, or you've just popped this onto some thread somewhere to try and get attention? Oh, I could go on with that list forever. But what about the symptoms of blending in, of wanting to blend in, of conforming? People pleasing is an obvious one, where you find yourself just doing the polite thing, but you do it too much. Now, again, great to be polite, great to show respect, great to put a filter on some of the stuff you might come out with in other contexts, all good and necessary. But if you're just constantly adjusting all the time to be what you think people want you to be to fit in, uncomfortable. What about the way you dress? I'm an entrepreneur. I've just started up. I'm going to networking. I better wear this kind of outfit. I mean, in the 80s, that would have been padded shoulder power dressing for women. But whatever it is, well, again, be clean, look smart, But if you're wearing something that is so not you, not good. What are the drivers of all of this behavior? Well, like I keep saying, it's incredibly human. I'm going to actually just refer to a book. You know, I like to do that. So here goes. This is a very unusual book, and it's called A Life of One's Own by Marion Milner. Now, I think the main thing about reading this book is that it just makes you think. It sort of has almost a kind of out of body experience effect, because that's how it's approached in a way. This lady, Marion Milner, who lived between 1900 and 1998, was writing lots of diary stuff over a period of time, and then she put it together in a book. But it was her attempt to try and get out of all the boxes that she'd put herself in, that society had put her in, that she'd allowed herself to be in, and to sort of figure out what the heck she was all about. What was her purpose? But she wanted to do it in a very sort of free-flowing, slightly Virginia Woolf kind of way. So that's what you get from reading this, but very relevant to this episode. Right at the beginning, she set out to write a list, just coming with the stuff that was in her mind without overthinking it, of things she hated and things she loved. And I'm just going to pick a few out of the things I hate list. Being ignored, making a fool of myself, being laughed at, being disapproved of, being copied in my attempts to be original, being made to feel conspicuous. I needn't go any further, because you can already see the tension here when it comes to exploring that problem of wanting to fit in and wanting to stand out as humans that we have. Because being ignored, nobody wants to be ignored. No. I mean, you could say, oh, I'm just going to sit in the corner. I really hope people ignore me, when you're an introvert, if you like, and you just want to, or you want to be nosy and sit and observe people. That's fine. But the general idea of being invisible is not, I think, what we seek. Making a fool of myself. Well, there's a contradiction in a way, because if you're going to not be ignored, it is possible, there is a slight danger that you might make a fool of yourself if you're going to stand up and speak, appear, walk into a room, anything. That possibility exists. Being laughed at, same thing. This one, being copied in my attempts to be original. So this is an age-old problem. So yes, I want to stand out. I'm going to do this original thing. I'm going to write this thing. I'm going to draw this thing. I'm going to come up with this original idea. I'm going to wear this original outfit, whatever. Oh, well, now somebody else has done it. Oh, gosh, now it's all over social media. Now this is like a craze. I hate it. I don't ever want to be seen as the person who does that. So beware. Are you listening to yourself? Is it still something that you want to do, to pursue? Or are you immediately put off by the idea that other people are doing it? Moving on, drivers. We as humans don't want to be pushed out of the tribe into the wilderness to starve. We always needed to have people around us to work together, hunters, gatherers, etc., in order to survive. And that desire still exists. We also need to manage our image. We need to manage the impression that we are giving, because people make instant judgments. That's human. So we are wary of perhaps coming out as our full unfiltered self in situations with new people. It takes a lot of trust building, doesn't it, to feel that you can be more relaxed. Yeah, there is a desire, a driver that says, be careful, you don't want people to misjudge you. A social identity threat. There's so much research on this stuff, and I'll put a few links around here. There's the in-group and out-group behavior, that idea, this has been researched a lot, that you want to become like the people in your group, and that the others are different kinds of people, and you're not one of them. And that can also lead to negative things like group think, where you stop using your own original ideas, and perhaps also that you're fearful of coming up with something that goes against the norms. We want to be seen as a good person, a caring, helpful, non-argumentative, a nice kind of person, someone people can feel at ease with, a good listener, all those lovely things. All these positive traits, as we see them, necessitate a high degree of the fitting in behaviors. Of course they do. There's got to be some acting and stuff going on if we're going to constantly portray this lovely us. Do we associate speaking out, demanding attention, being a little bit more loud, quirky in our appearance, for instance, do we associate that with something not positive? Something that I'm going to call, yes, showing off. Da, 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 da. I do go into this in my TEDx talk, but it's my thing about self-squashing. So I just give you a quick reminder. You're not being a show-off unless you're showing off. I could go on and on about all of that. Suffice to say, there are resources and links, and we'll pursue aspects of this in other podcasts. But for now, how to unlock the puzzle, the conundrum, if you like. Conforming doesn't have to involve relinquishing control, being dull, being a mindless autonoman. No, it doesn't have to be that negative thing. Conforming can be a very necessary socializing thing. It can be a grounding thing. It can simply be you being polite, you being a little bit sneaky because you maybe want to get a certain job. And to an extent, all of that is perfectly healthy. So the key to unlocking the conundrum: the need to stand out, to feel a sense of uniqueness, while also wanting to be part of a community, a norm, while not making waves that draw too much attention and create potential enemies. Well, try this as a little idea. Acknowledging the human need to act a little to fit in, be polite, get people feeling comfortable, or even acting a little to take on a more center stage role for perfectly valid reasons, right? We acknowledge that. But now, having acknowledged that and not feeling bad about it, reflect on your behaviors, your thoughts, etc. Reflect on, well, how you dress, act, think, express yourself, feel, when you are closest to, let's just call it your inner sense of self, your inner sense of uniqueness, authentic core, whatever you want to call it, that feeling where you're, this is me. And now keep a check on your identity gap. What do I mean by that? Well, whilst a bit of a gap is quite natural, as I've said, you do need to do some presentation of self, some impression management, a bit of acting. If your gap is too wide and constantly there, that's not so good. Ask yourself, am I standing out by not being me? Is that how I'm achieving my standing outness? And am I blending in by not being me? Is that how I'm achieving my blending inness? And if you're stuck in either mode, it's not good, and you need to work on this. So, more self-questioning. Am I doing this just for the sake of it? Does this feel connected to an inner core? Am I working with intrinsic as opposed to extrinsic motivators? In other words, am I doing what society expects? Am I doing what I think other people want me to do? Am I doing what I think will look good, as opposed to, yeah, this is the way I want to pursue this. This is my purpose. These are my values. Are you doing it consciously if you're blending in or standing out? Do you know you're doing it for a purpose? That's fine. But if you're just kind of being pulled into that state, either one of those extremes, if you like, without necessarily stopping and thinking, hang on, is this me? You need to stop and do a bit of reflection. Self-awareness is all. I'm going to end with a few quotes. If you are always trying to be normal, you will never know how amazing you can be. Maya Angelou. But it was okay not to fit in everywhere as long as you did somewhere. Sarah Dessen. I think the reward for conformity is that everyone likes you except yourself. Rita Mae Brown. As for conforming outwardly and living your own life inwardly, I do not think much of that. Henry David Thoreau. Thought-provoking, eh? Conclusion? Just keep checking in that whatever you're doing, if it's a little bit of conforming for good reasons or a little bit of standing out for good reasons, you're doing it from a place of you-ness as much as possible, and that you're conscious that you are deliberately doing a bit of something that isn't totally you because it makes sense at that moment in time. Just do a little audit and make sure you're not self-squashing. So just a reminder, if you're curious about this whole idea of self-squashing, then my website, trishalewis.com, has some resources on it. And of course, you've got all the other episodes to look back on of this podcast. My book, The Mystery of the Squash Self, my TEDx, Beware the Self-Squashing Prophecy. All of that stuff is there for you. Stay curious and unsquashed.